In November 2025, the Bloomberg Billionaires Index released its latest rankings of the richest people on the planet. And buried inside the data was a statistic so extraordinary that most news outlets did not even mention it. Of the 10 wealthiest human beings on Earth, 6 are Jewish. 6 out of 10. Jewish people make up 0.2% of the global population. 2 out of every 1,000 people. And they occupy 6 of the top 10 spots on the definitive ranking of the world's richest individuals. Together, these 6 men hold over $1.3 trillion in combined wealth, more than the GDP of most countries on Earth. Before we go any further, let me be clear about what this video is and what it is not. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not a claim that Jewish people control anything. That accusation is the oldest and most dangerous anti-Semitic trope in existence, and this video is going to dismantle it, not reinforce it. What this is a list of 10 billionaires whose Jewish heritage most people do not know about, and whose stories, when you actually hear them, reveal something far more interesting than any conspiracy theory could ever offer. If you find these stories fascinating, make sure you subscribe to Bloodlines and Borders. Number 10. Bill Ackman. We start with a name that became impossible to avoid in 2024 and 2025. Bill Ackman is the founder of Pershing Square Capital Management, a hedge fund that has made him a billionaire several times over. But most people did not know his name until he went to war with Harvard University. After the October 7th attacks, Ackman became one of the most vocal Jewish voices in American public life, calling out what he described as rampant anti-Semitism on elite college campuses. He publicly pressured Harvard's president to resign, took out full-page newspaper ads, and used his social media platforms to wage a daily campaign against what he saw as institutional tolerance of anti-Jewish hatred. In an interview, Ackman said that October 7th was a wake-up call on the importance of Israel and the omnipresence of anti-Semitism. He was honored at the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, where he declared that there has never been a better time to invest in Israel. Whether you agree with his politics or not, Bill Ackman made it impossible to ignore the fact that one of America's most powerful investors is proudly, loudly, unapologetically Jewish. Number 9. Jan Koum. This one is genuinely astonishing. Jan Koum is the co-founder of WhatsApp, the messaging application used by over 2 billion people worldwide. When Facebook acquired WhatsApp in 2014 for $19 billion, it was the largest acquisition of a venture-backed company in history. And the man who built it grew up in a small village near Kyiv, Ukraine, in a family of Jewish immigrants with no hot water and a phone line shared with multiple neighbors. Koum and his mother immigrated to Mountain View, California when he was 16. They lived on food stamps. His mother worked as a babysitter. Koum learned to code using secondhand manuals from a thrift store. Today, his net worth is estimated at over $16 billion. Despite his extraordinary wealth, Koum maintains an almost invisible public profile. But his charitable giving tells the story of who he is. He has donated generously to Jewish education programs, community centers, and cultural preservation projects. The boy from a Ukrainian Jewish village with no hot water built a tool that connects 2 billion people across the planet. That is not a conspiracy. That is an immigrant story. Number 8. Marc Benioff. Marc Benioff is the co-founder and chairman of Salesforce, one of the most valuable software companies in the world, and the owner of Time magazine. He is worth approximately $12 billion. Benioff was raised in a Jewish family in San Francisco and has spoken openly about how his Jewish upbringing shaped his approach to both business and philanthropy. He is a major proponent of the concept of stakeholder capitalism, the idea that companies have obligations not just to shareholders, but to their communities, their employees, and the world. Benioff has described this philosophy as a direct extension of the Jewish ethical principle of tikkun olam, the duty to repair the world. He has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to hospitals, schools, and environmental causes. The man who runs one of the world's most important tech companies and owns one of the world's most famous magazines credits his Jewish faith for the values that drive his career. Most people have no idea. If you find these stories fascinating, make sure you subscribe to Bloodlines and Borders. Number 7. Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg, the former 3-term mayor of New York City and founder of Bloomberg LP, the global financial data empire, was raised in a Jewish family in Medford, Massachusetts. His father was a bookkeeper at a dairy company. Bloomberg attended Johns Hopkins University, went to Harvard Business School, and after being fired from Salomon Brothers in 1981, used his severance to start the company that would make him one of the richest men in the world. Today, his net worth exceeds $100 billion. Bloomberg has been one of the largest philanthropic donors in modern history, giving away over $17 billion in his lifetime. He has also been one of the most significant financial supporters of Jewish and Israeli causes, donating over 100 million shekels to Israeli organizations in recent years. When he ran for the Democratic presidential nomination in 2020, he became one of the most prominent Jewish candidates for the American presidency in modern history. Bloomberg does not hide his Jewish identity. He has simply been so successful at so many things that most people think of him as a mayor, a media mogul, or a philanthropist before they think of him as Jewish. Number 6. Michael Dell. Michael Dell founded Dell Technologies from his University of Texas dorm room in 1984 with $1,000. He was 19 years old. He had the idea that he could build computers to order and sell them directly to consumers, cutting out the middleman. That idea turned into one of the largest technology companies on earth. Today, his net worth exceeds $100 billion, and he recently entered the Bloomberg Billionaires Index top 10 for the first time. What most people do not know is that Michael Dell is Jewish. He was raised in a Jewish family in Houston, Texas. His parents were of Eastern European Jewish descent. Through the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, he and his wife have committed $15 million to 17 active projects across Israel, funding educational programs, youth leadership initiatives, and technology projects. Dell is one of the world's most powerful tech executives, and his Jewish heritage is something that rarely appears in the headlines but quietly shapes his philanthropy. Number 5. Steve Ballmer. This is the one that genuinely surprises people. Steve Ballmer, the former CEO of Microsoft and current owner of the Los Angeles Clippers basketball team, is Jewish through his mother. His mother, Beatrice Dworkin, was of Swiss Jewish heritage. Ballmer grew up in the Detroit area, attended Harvard, and dropped out of Stanford Business School to join his college friend Bill Gates at a small startup called Microsoft. He became CEO in 2000 and ran the company for 14 years. Today, his net worth exceeds approximately $120 billion, making him one of the 10 richest people on earth. Most people associate Ballmer with his famously sweaty, screaming motivational speeches at Microsoft conferences. Very few people know that the man who ran the most valuable company in the world for over a decade is Jewish. His mother's heritage connects him to the Swiss Jewish community, one of the smaller and less well-known Jewish populations in Europe. Number 4. Larry Page. Larry Page, the co-founder of Google, now Alphabet Inc., has a net worth exceeding $240 billion. He is one of the 5 richest human beings on the planet, and his Jewish heritage is almost never discussed. Page's mother, Gloria, is Jewish. His maternal grandfather was Jewish and survived the upheavals of the early 20th century before the family settled in the United States. Page was raised in Michigan in a household that valued education and intellectual curiosity above almost everything else, a pattern that should sound familiar to anyone who watched our video on why Jewish people are overrepresented in Nobel Prizes. He co-created the PageRank algorithm that became the foundation of Google's search engine, a technology that fundamentally reorganized how humanity accesses information. The man who helped build the gateway to the world's knowledge carries Jewish heritage on his mother's side, a fact that most of the billions of people who use Google every day have never heard. If you find these stories fascinating, make sure you subscribe to Bloodlines and Borders. Number 3. Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook and CEO of Meta Platforms, was raised in a Jewish household in Dobbs Ferry, New York. His father is of German and Polish Jewish descent. His mother is of Austrian and German Jewish descent. Zuckerberg had a bar mitzvah that he has jokingly described as Star Wars themed. He attended Harvard, built Facebook in his dorm room, and dropped out to run a company that would eventually connect 3 billion people worldwide. Today, his net worth exceeds $220 billion. After a period of self-described atheism, Zuckerberg publicly reconnected with his Jewish identity, posting on Facebook in 2016, "I was raised Jewish and then I went through a period where I questioned things, but now I believe religion is very important." He married Priscilla Chan in a ceremony that incorporated Jewish traditions, and their children are being raised with exposure to Jewish culture. The man who built the world's largest social network found his way back to the faith his parents raised him in. Not exactly the image of the godless tech overlord that conspiracy theorists like to promote. Number 2. Sergey Brin. Sergey Brin's story might be the most powerful immigrant story on this list. He was born in Moscow in 1973 to a family of Soviet Jews who lived under a system that systematically discriminated against them. His father, a mathematician, was denied admission to Moscow State University because of anti-Semitic quotas. His mother, a researcher, faced similar barriers. In 1979, the family emigrated to the United States, part of the wave of Soviet Jewish refugees who fled a country that treated their identity as a liability. Brin was 6 years old. He grew up in Maryland, attended the University of Maryland, went to Stanford, and there met Larry Page. Together they built Google, a company that processes over 8.5 billion searches per day and generates more than $300 billion in annual revenue. Brin's net worth exceeds $220 billion. He has spoken publicly about how his family's experience with Soviet anti-Semitism shaped his worldview. "I know the dark side of forced conformity," he has said. The boy whose father was turned away from university because he was Jewish built a tool that democratized access to information for the entire human race. If there is a more complete refutation of every anti-Semitic conspiracy theory ever invented, I have not found it. Number 1. Larry Ellison. And the number 1 spot goes to the wealthiest Jewish person on earth and, depending on which day you check the index, the wealthiest or second wealthiest person alive. Larry Ellison, the co-founder of Oracle Corporation, has a net worth that fluctuates between $300 and $380 billion. He was born in New York City to a Jewish mother who was 19 and unmarried. She gave him up for adoption when he was 9 months old, and he was raised by his great-aunt and great-uncle, Lillian and Louis Ellison, Russian Jewish immigrants living on the south side of Chicago. His adoptive father, Louis, was not a wealthy man. He made a modest living and was, by Larry's own account, not particularly encouraging. Larry dropped out of college twice. He moved to California with almost nothing. At the age of 33, he co-founded software development laboratories with $1,200 of his own money. That company became Oracle, and Oracle became one of the most important technology companies on Earth. Today, Ellison is a man who eclipsed Elon Musk as the world's richest person in September 2025. He has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to medical research, to Israeli causes, including major contributions to the Friends of the Idif and to the city of Sderot. A college dropout raised by Russian Jewish immigrants in Chicago built a company worth over $400 billion with $1,200 and an idea. That is not a conspiracy. That is the most extraordinary rags to riches story in the history of modern capitalism. And that is the real point of this list. 6 of the world's 10 richest people are Jewish. That is a statistical fact. But the story behind that fact is not what the conspiracy theorists want you to believe. It is not about secret cabals or hidden agendas or puppet masters pulling strings. It is about Soviet refugees who fled anti-Semitism and built search engines. It is about adopted children who dropped out of college and founded software empires. It is about teenagers who coded in dorm rooms and changed how humanity communicates. It is about families that valued education, intellectual risk-taking, and the belief that ideas could change the world. Values rooted in a culture that has been sharpened by 2,000 years of exclusion and survival. The anti-Semitic version of this story says that Jewish success proves a conspiracy. The real version of this story proves exactly the opposite. Every single person on this list built something from nothing. Several of them were immigrants. Several of them were college dropouts. One of them grew up on food stamps. One of them was given up for adoption at 9 months old. They did not inherit power. They created it. And they created it in industries that did not exist before they invented them. That is not control. That is creation. And there is a world of difference between the two. If you find these stories fascinating, make sure you subscribe to Bloodlines and Borders. Thank you for watching. If you want to go deeper, the next video on your screen is one you won't want to miss. I'll see you there.